We'll continue with chapter 1, Rise of Nationalism in Europe. We'll continue with that. Okay. Now, who is this in the class without name? Only one is written there. Who is that? It has been told to you that you have to write your name, class, and section. All right. So we'll continue with what we were doing, the rise of nationalism in Europe. And what we had seen the rule of the monarchs, then we had seen the liberal nationalists were there. All right, Napoleon's code of conduct was there, all that we had seen, civil code, that also we had seen. Then we came to conservatism, where the old traditions are followed with a little modernization. And I told you, at first, the monarchs got ready, agreed that yes, okay, we are ready to follow the new system. But once power came in their hand, they were again back to their old methods. And people did not like it. Many people secretly worked against conservatism. These people were called revolutionaries. And we had seen one important revolutionary, Giuseppe Mazzini, who formed Young Europe and Young Italy secret societies. And what did Metternich call him? The most dangerous enemy of our existing social order. We have to control him. Otherwise, he will change this society, change the order of our society. So that is why revolutionaries went underground. And whoever raised their voice against conservative governments, they were termed as revolutionaries, they were punished, they were put in jails. So that is why they all went underground. Then we started with the age of revolutions, and then here we had seen first the July Revolution, all right, in France in July 1830, and after that in Greece, the Greek War of Independence. Greece was under the Ottoman Empire, and there they started fighting for freedom. And people all over the world, the Europeans all over the world, supported the people of Greece, because Greece was considered as the cradle of European civilization. The European civilization originated or took birth from Greece. That is why the Europeans loved Greece, and they all supported. And it is written, Lord Byron, the English poet, he collected money and he went to fight. And he died there. And finally, in 1832, with the Treaty of Constantinople, Greece got its independence. Then we started with Romanticism, the romantic imagination. I told you this is a movement, a method of movement in which culture is given importance. Dances, songs, music, art, paintings, drama, all these things are given importance. These became a way of fighting against the conservative governments, against the kings, and showing that we all are one. We belong to one country, one nation. That belongingness could be shown through language, through music. And we had seen two examples. Well, we had seen about Poland, it was distributed among Russia, Prussia, and Austria. But Karol Turkowski, what he did, he made the Polonaise and Mazurka so famous. These were the Polish dances. He made them so famous that these dances were being done here and there to bring about nationalist sentiments with the people. The same thing happened in the territory of Poland, which was under Russian control. They said no one will use the Polish language. Banned Polish language, the use of Polish language, only Russian language will be used. But still, the people of the church, the clergy, the fathers and bishops, they used to preach the people in Polish language. Why? They wanted people to know that this is our culture. What they are telling us, what they are imposing on us, that is not our culture. All right. That is why they continued, though the government has banned, they continued with this, and many of them even put in jail and all this happened. We'll start with hunger, hardship, and popular revolt. Page number 15. Hunger, hardship, and popular revolt. Okay. The 1830s were years of great economic hardship in Europe. All over Europe in the 1830s, there was a lot of problem economically. The first half of the 19th century saw an enormous increase in the population all over Europe. And you know, when population increases, automatically what happens? Things become short and the price of things increases. So that was a big problem. In most countries, there were more seekers of job and employment. When population is more, unemployment becomes more. Why? Because job is less. People wanting job are more. Population from rural areas migrated to the cities to live in overcrowded slums. Small producers in towns were often faced with stiff competition from imports of cheap machine-made goods from England, where industrialization was more advanced than on the continent. So, small producers, they also had to face competition because of the machine-made goods that were coming from England, because industrialization had started there. This was especially so in textile and mainly in the textile industry, which was carried out mainly in homes or small workshops and was only partly mechanized. In those regions of Europe where the aristocracy still enjoyed power, peasants struggled under the burden of feudal dues and obligations. The aristocratic, the nobles, they were very powerful, landlords. The laborers had to work under them, many times without any wages, and not only work on the field, but whatever work they tell, they had to do that. They could not say no. And they had to pay tax also to the aristocrats. So all this was wrong. This all was taking place. The rise of food prices for a year of bad harvest led to widespread pauperism in the town of country. Pauperism means poverty. Garibi increased. If there was a bad harvest, if the price of things went up, more people came in poverty. More poor people. The number of poor people increased. The year 1848 was one such year. Food shortages and widespread unemployment brought population of Paris out on the road. Now see what happened. Food shortage plus unemployment. Because of this, the people of Paris in protest came on the roads. Barricades were erected by Louis Philippe and was forced to flee. So barricades to stop the people. We have seen when curfew and all is there, they put barricades to stop the movement of the people. So that way barricades were put up to stop the movement. And Louis Philippe, he ran away. Leaving his country, he ran away. A National Assembly proclaimed the Republic, granted suffrage to all adult males above 21 and guaranteed the right to vote. And then a National Assembly was formed. This you have done during the French Revolution also. When the States General meeting was there, the third estate people walked out, and in the tennis court they formed a National Assembly and they had a meeting to draft the constitution for France. So again the National Assembly was set up. It was declared a republic. Suffrage's voting right was given to all the males who were about 21 years of age, and everyone was guaranteed right to work. All will get work who are eligible to work. National workshops to provide employment were set up. National workshops from the government side, people were trained. Workshops were set up in order to give training and to give work to the people, to give employment to the people. Earlier, in 1845, weavers in Silesia had led a revolt against contractors who supplied them raw material and gave them orders for finished textiles, but drastically reduced their payments. So this is something happened earlier in 1845. What has happened? The people had revolted against the contractors who gave them raw materials, all right, and told them to provide them finished goods. But then what happened? When the finished goods were given, they would say, this is not good, this is not good quality. And in this way, they will reduce the price. They give raw material, they tell the laborers to make things, produce things, they fix a rate. All right, I'll buy per piece for 100 rupees. Suppose an example. When the finished good is there, when they come to take it, they say, oh, this is not good quality. Oh, you have not done like this. So they'll give only 40 rupees or 20 rupees. So the poor people were suffering. They were being exploited. The journalist William Wolf described the events in Silesia village as follows. Something happened in Silesia village in 1845. Let's see. In these villages, with 18,000 inhabitants, cotton weaving is the most widespread occupation. The misery of the workers is extreme. The desperate need for jobs has been taken advantage of by the contractors to reduce the price of goods they order. Population is more people require job. So when more people are available for job, then what happens? The salary becomes less, the wage becomes less. Exploitation. This was happening. On 4 June at 2 p.m., a large crowd of weavers emerged from their homes and marched in pairs up to the mansion of the contractor demanding higher wages. So this happened. Weavers in a crowd, they got out of their houses and they went to the house of their contractor. What they were demanding? Higher wages, increase in wages. They were treated with scorn and threats, so they were given threats. The contractor tried to frighten them. He tried to abuse them, use bad words against them. Following this, a group of them forced their way into the house, smashed its elegant window panes, furniture, porcelain. Another group broke into the storehouse and plundered it of all supplies of cotton which they told to spread. Then what happened? The people got angry. One group attacked the house of the contractor, broke everything, windows and everything. The other group entered the storehouse and whatever cotton, clothes, etc. was stored there, they tore everything to pieces. The contractor fled with his family to a neighboring village, which, however, refused to shelter such a person. So, in order to save his life, the contractor ran away. He went to the neighboring village. But the villagers there also refused, said, no, we are not going to give shelter to such a person. He returned 24 hours later, having requisitioned the army. Now, what happened? He came back. He ran away to save his life. But he came back because he had sent a request to the army to help him. And after 24 hours, he came with the army. In the exchange that followed, 11 weavers were shot. Then a fight took place and 11 weavers were shot dead. So this type of small revolutions were taking place here and there all over Europe. The revolution of the liberals. Parallel to the revolts of the poor, unemployed and starving peasants and workers in many European countries, in the year 1848, a revolution led by the educated middle classes was underway. The educated people also had their revolution. Farmers, artisans, they are fighting against the landlords, against the contractors and all. But parallel to that, the educated people also had their revolution. Events of February 1848 in France had brought about the abdication of monarch and a republic based on universal male suffrage had been proclaimed. Just now we had seen Louis Philippe ran away. National Assembly declared a republic. All right. Universal suffrage to males of 21 years of age was given. All this happened. King was removed. In other parts of Europe where independent nation states did not yet exist, where Germany, Italy, Poland, Austro-Hungarian Empire, men and women of the liberal middle classes combined their demands for constitutionalism with national unification. So when they saw that something is happening in France, in other European countries which were not nation states, there also people started demanding that a constitution should be formed, a republican government should be there. They also started demanding. That is why, do you remember what Metternich said? When France sneezes, the rest of Europe catches cold. This is what he said. Something happens in France, slowly it spreads to different parts of Europe. King has been removed, a new government has come there. Now this will happen everywhere in Europe. This is what he meant. They took advantage of the growing popular unrest to push their demands for the creation of a nation state on parliamentary principles. So these educated people, they also started demanding. They saw that the people are against the king, people are against the government. So they took advantage of this and they started raising their voice for a demand of a nation state which will have a constitution, which will have freedom of press, and which will have freedom of association. People are free to form their groups, unions, associations in order to fight for their rights. In the German regions, a large number of political associations whose members were middle class professionals, businessmen, and prosperous artisans came together in the city of Frankfurt and decided to vote for an all German National Assembly. So, in the German regions, again, what happened? People came together, of the middle class people, they came together and they voted and decided that they are going to form a German National Assembly, like it was formed in France. On 18 May 1848, 831 elected representatives marched in a festive procession. Right, festive procession, very happily. They took out a procession and they went to the church of Saint Paul in Frankfurt. And that is why this meeting is called the Frankfurt Parliament. Okay, the church of Saint Paul. They drafted a constitution for a German nation to be headed by a monarchy subject to a parliament, and there they made a new constitution for Germany. The German nation, the ruler will be king, but the king will be under the control of the parliament. King will not have absolute powers. Whatever he wishes, he will not be able to do. He will be under the control of the parliament. When the deputies offered the crown on these terms to Frederick William IV, King of Prussia, he rejected it and joined other monarchs to oppose the elected assembly. So, after deciding that we are going to have a king as a ruler, but the king will be controlled by the parliament, they offered the throne to King William IV, Frederick William IV. He was the king of Prussia, but he rejected. He said no. And he joined the other kings. He joined the other kings. Why? Because all the kings were now afraid. No king wanted to give away their powers. They thought that when they don't have powers, then what is the need of the rule then? They wanted to rule with absolute, with power which has no control. So he refused and he joined other kings. While the opposition of the aristocracy and military became stronger, the social basis of the parliament eroded. And then the aristocratic people, the rich people, the military, they all started to go against this parliament. The parliament was dominated by middle classes who resisted the demand of workers and artisans and consequently lost their support. And what happened? This parliament, the Frankfurt Parliament, in this maximum people were rich middle class people. And they did not listen to the laborers, to the artisans, to the farmers. They did not listen to them. And because of that, these people stopped giving support to them. All right. In the end, troops were called in and the assembly was forced to disband. Finally, military entered the Frankfurt Parliament and everything was dissolved, finished. The issue of extending political rights to women was a controversial one within the liberal movement in which large number of women had participated actively over the years. Women have been participating in all the movements. All right, in the liberal movement, women had been participating. In the nationalist movement, women had been participating. And they had demanded that why only males should get all the rights, why not women? Why not voting right or political rights be given to women also? And this was such a topic on which a lot of debate used to go on. There was a lot of controversy because women said we also actively participate with men, so we should also get rights. Women had formed their own political association, founded newspapers, and taken part in political meetings and demonstrations. So they had their own groups, they had their own newspapers, they had their meetings, they took part in demonstrations. Everywhere they were actively participating. Then why they are not getting the rights? That was the question. Despite this, they were denied suffrage rights during the election of the assembly. So, though they took active participation in everything, still they were not given the suffrage rights, voting rights. When the Frankfurt Parliament, the National Assembly formed, they were not given the rights to vote. When the Frankfurt Parliament convened in the Church of St. Paul, women were admitted only as observers to stand in the visitors' gallery. Women were permitted to come in, but as observers. Look and see, stand and look and see what is happening. You don't have to interfere in anything. Just look and see things. Nothing else. Though conservative forces were able to suppress liberal movements in 1848, they could not restore the old order. So conservative, they were able to suppress these movements. All right, liberals were raising their voice against the conservative governments. Conservatives were able to suppress. Just now you had seen the troops entered the Frankfurt Parliament and they dissolved everything. So this was happening. Everything was being suppressed by them. Monarchs were beginning to realize that the cycle of revolution and repression could only be ended by granting concession to the liberal nationalist revolutionaries. But now it was becoming clear to the kings that we have to listen to these liberals, these nationalists also. We have to give some concession to them also. We have to agree to many points which they are demanding. Then only we will be able to rule properly. This thought was now coming in the minds of the monarchs. Hence, in the years after 1848, the autocratic monarchies of Central and Eastern Europe began to introduce the changes that had already taken place in Western Europe before 1815. So, changes started coming. In Western Europe already, before 1815, changes had come. The kings had brought about some administrative changes. Now changes started coming in Central and Eastern Europe also. Thus, serfdom, that is I told you the agricultural laborers, they had to work under the landlords and they had to pay taxes and give free work also. That was removed. Bonded labor. There also people are forced to work without any wages. That was also removed or abolished in the Habsburg dominions and in Russia. The Habsburg rulers granted more autonomy to Hungarians in 1867. And in the Habsburg Empire, not many people were from Hungary. So they were also given a lot of freedom in 1867. So you can see, because people were revolting, because people had started raising their voice, so changes started coming in the society. If we don't raise our voice, if we just sit quietly, let the government do whatever is happening, we are not bothered, then what will happen? We will always suffer. We will be exploited. So whenever we find something is wrong, something is not good, you have to raise your voice. When you raise your voice, then only other like-minded people will join you, and then only the government or those who are in power will come to know, yes, people are demanding this. If we don't give this to them, then some revolution, some movement will take place. Something bad will happen in the country. And then they will think to introduce some changes. So that is what happened in the revolution. I hope things are clear till here. Okay, we'll stop here for today. So bye for today and see you in the next class.